Grandma, my parents have decided to put you in a nursing home. Mom has already collected all the documents. I don't want you to leave us. But if you feel better there, I will help you pack your suitcase. My granddaughter hugged me and kissed me on the cheek. To say that I was shocked is an understatement. I have just begun to live. 5 years have passed since Sebastian's death. I have renovated the house and tidied up the garden. And I have finally fallen in love. And I cannot understand how I have not felt these feelings for all 60 years before. My gardener Felipe came to the States from Argentina. I don't care that he is younger than my son. I feel happy with him. Let's get to know each other. I'm Bernadette, but my neighbors and friends call me Bertha, and those I considered my family, Mom. 20 years ago I was a famous actress. I starred in TV series and commercials. Some of my friends still make fun of me, remembering the commercial for hemorrhoid cream. Maybe it's funny to someone. But I don't regret this experience. Especially when I was paid $500,000 for it. As an actress, I'm good at pretending that nothing is happening. My eyes are where I really am not. During the Thanksgiving holiday, I go to visit my son and install cameras and a wiretap in his house. I know it's not normal. If it weren't for my granddaughter's words, I would never have sunk so low. But what if she's telling the truth? My son is jealous of me for Felipe. There is only one scenario in his head: Philip with me, to become a rich widower and take everything from my family. But am I so stupid to get married without a marriage contract and rewrite my own will? I have worked hard all my life to leave everything to my children. That's the official opening. Now let me color in the margins. I'm 59, though if you ask my left knee it'll swear I'm 93, and if you ask Felipe he'll say I'm ageless because he also values his life. He's all wind-tossed hair, laughing eyes, and the kind of patience that can coerce roses into forgiving January. He calls me Bernie, rolls the R, and makes the syllables sound like a tango step. He's also the reason my son, Andrew, has been looking at me like I've started shoplifting infants from hospital nurseries. My granddaughter, sweet Laurel with graphite under her nails and courage under her skin, whispered the warning on a Wednesday. By Thursday, I'd stopped shaking. By Friday, I'd started planning. Formerly famous people keep odd skills in their bottom drawers. I still memorize lines like a metronome and I can cry on cue. But my signature talent is hitting my mark without anyone seeing me move. Which is why, when Thanksgiving rolled around and Andrew insisted I come spend real time with the family, I went, bearing pumpkin pie, cranberry relish, and cameras the size of capers. Their house is all open concept and closed hearts, white marble, gray walls, and the kind of rug you have to apologize to if you step on it with enthusiasm. My daughter-in-law, Jenna, greeted me with a cheek that smelled like citrus and calculation. "Coffee, Bertha?" she asked, bright as an interrogation lamp. "After I wash my hands," I said. I touched the turkey at the market and I'm not sure it was consensual. Laughter sprinkled across the kitchen like sea salt. I smiled, excused myself, and slipped down the hallway, the one Andrew always claims is too narrow for holiday traffic and therefore perfect for disappearing mothers. In the powder room I set the pie on the counter, locked the door, and went to work. A compact mirror propped in the soap dish kept the corridor in my peripheral vision, the faucet ran for ambience, my hands didn't tremble. The first camera hid inside the wreath, pine cones, artificial berries, and a tiny lens peeking like a curious robin. The second lived in the vent, the third became a magnetic button on the bottom of the living room's console table, well within earshot of marital honesty. And because old actresses never trust a single take, I placed a discreet audio dot behind the framed school photo of my grandson, the frame Jenna never dusts because, as she once confided, matte black hides everything, even effort. 3 minutes. Maybe 4. I re-emerged with a smile virtuous enough to qualify for sainthood, flushed the toilet for alibi, and floated toward the kitchen where the coffee waited, steaming and suspicious in a floral mug that had never been theirs. Funny, I thought. That's my mug. Skinny vanilla caramel oat whip? Jenna cooed, sliding the cup toward me. Your favorite. My favorite is Cabernet, I said lightly, and left the mug to warm my fingerprints while I joined the excuse me stroll toward the living room. The football game murmured. Children shouted. I slipped nearer to the console table, as if admiring the holiday mantle. My little recording button hummed against the wood. I was just in time. Andrew's voice, low, strained, "No, I can't put that in her coffee. She is my mother. Do it yourself." I didn't need training to hit my mark. I returned to the kitchen with a smile that belonged on a billboard for forgiveness. "Oh," I said, picking up the mug. "Did I say coffee?" My cardiologist switched me to green tea, or cocoa, sometimes, if I'm feeling sweet. I turned, poured the entire mug into the sink, and ran the faucet like a tiny waterfall of absolution. The silence that followed was symphonic. Jenna's mouth made a perfect O, like a suction cup on a crime scene window. Andrew's jaw went to war with gravity and lost. Behind me, Laurel's eyes went wide, then thoughtful. She took the kettle from my hands and asked, too casually, "Grandma, want peppermint?" "I'll have cocoa," I said, "if we still keep it in the blue tin." "We do." We did. And I sipped it slowly while plans died gasping in my kitchen sink. The lost battle wasn't the war, it was the trumpet. Over pie I became the woman everyone expects, soft-voiced, slightly forgetful, the one who compliments the turkey even though it's dry as a Tuesday. I asked Jenna about work, I asked Andrew about his promotion, I asked the children about school as if I hadn't been informed that their mother had collected all the documents. I let them sing grace and carve and lie. I let them think I was fooled because sometimes elegance is letting your enemies knot their own ribbon. But the recordings do not lie. Later, cleaned kitchen, full dishwasher, staged goodbyes, I returned home to Felipe and to Truth. We sat at the long oak table I refinished myself, the wiretaps feed playing in tidy, time-stamped slices. Every word like a tack under my skin. Make her unbalanced. If she won't agree to the home, we, neurological consult, confusion, move things around so she thinks she's losing it. We'll say it's for her safety. She leaves the stove on, she's done that before. I'll put the pill grinder in the garage. Just in case. I stopped the audio. My cocoa had cooled to a skin. Felipe's hand closed over mine, strong from hauling mulch and coaxing trellises, gentle as faith. "You do not deserve this," he said. "I raised this boy," I murmured, not as defense, not as excuse, just inventorying the years. I taught him to tie his shoes and to tell the truth. I forgot to teach him that I am not a soft target. I didn't sleep. I repotted the Christmas cactus that blooms when it wants, not when the calendar tells it to. I moved through the house counting the betrayals like stairs, once for every time I drove a fluish child to the ER, twice for every job interview I massaged with my contacts, 3 times for every Sunday dinner I made while they scrolled their phones and called it quality time. Around dawn, I reread my will. I underlined. I double underlined. I made coffee and didn't drink it. At 9, I called my lawyer. At 10, I called my hairdresser. At noon, I called my best friend, Margot, who thinks revenge is a dish best served with confetti. "Do not go nuclear yet," Margot said. "Go couture. Make them destroy each other while you keep your hands clean." Couture, I repeated, and I could feel the old muscles of performance limbering up. Elegant war. Wardrobes. Props. Timing. Let them fight. Felipe didn't like the next part. He said the plan was petty. I told him it was precise. When Andrew drove me to meet my friend at the cafe, his idea of being present because appearances are their religion, I left a small gift in his glove compartment. A pair of red lace panties, tasteless as temptation, a size that would insult me if you thought it was mine. I placed them like a comma in a sentence I intended to finish later. "Want me to walk you in?" he asked at the curb. "Stay," I said sweetly. "Your car is purring. Don't starve her." He smiled, relieved by whatever lie he'd told himself that morning. I kissed his cheek, no lipstick, not yet, that would be Act 2, And I went inside to drink iced tea with Margot and talk about the power of patience. By dinner time the panties had been discovered. My phone lit up with a furious text from Jenna sent accidentally to the family group chat. Whose are these? No emojis. Real rage never needs decoration. I put the phone face down. That evening, I painted my lips in a red I hadn't touched in 5 years and practiced a kiss on the inside of my elbow. The color stained perfectly and refused to be subtle. Tomorrow, I thought. Tomorrow the collar of my son's shirt will learn about consequences. But tonight, there was something else to do. I drove to Laurel's art show at the community center and bought the sketch she thought no one would understand, a woman in a storm, umbrella closed, letting the rain hit her face like a dare. You draw how people survive, I told her, and she smiled like she'd grown an inch. Then, in the parking lot beneath a stubborn moon, I pressed a small envelope into her hand. If anything scary happens, I said, you bring this to the bank and you call Felipe. He's on speed dial 1 through 5. Grandma, what? I'm not leaving you, I said. That's what. On the way home, the wiretap recorded more. Plans for a neurological evaluation. A conversation about how moving my spice jars would help create the picture. And the sentence that made the night go colder than the highway, we should get her used to waking up in unfamiliar places. It'll sell the story. I pulled over on the shoulder and let the dark sit with me. I'm not a woman who cries, not because I'm strong but because I used up a decade's worth of tears when Sebastian died. Tonight, none came. What arrived instead was a clarity so clean it felt like glass. A lost battle isn't a lost war. It's reconnaissance. When I got home, Felipe was on the back step, repairing a loose board on the pergola. He stood when he saw my face, wiped his hands on his shirt, and opened his arms. I let myself be held for exactly 5 seconds, long enough to refuel, not long enough to be rescued. Tomorrow, I told him, stepping back. A lipstick mark and a misunderstanding. After that, a text message from a number that doesn't exist. Let's see how much love their marriage can survive when the money's not easy. He frowned. Bernie, there is still forgiveness. Oh, there is, I said. But we will schedule it after they stop trying to poison my coffee. I slept, finally, and dreamed of pies that never burn and gardens that never die, dreams you give yourself when you've decided to live exactly as long as you please. Morning came with a clear sky and the kind of sunshine that makes liars squint. I wore a cream blouse and a soft gray cardigan, the perfect canvas. When Andrew stopped by to check in, I hugged him in the doorway, pressed a mother's kiss to his collar, and left a red half-moon like a signature. Mom, everything okay? He asked, touching his shirt. Everything, I said. Perfect. Behind him, parked at the curb, Jenna scrolled her phone with the impatience of a woman who believes time owes her favors. I waved. She did not wave back. Inside, my cameras blinked like loyal fireflies. My wiretap waited. My cocoa tin gleamed. The first move had been theirs and it had failed. The next would be mine. And it would begin, as all elegant wars do, with the smallest possible thing that could shatter an empire. The lipstick stain bloomed exactly as planned, bright, deliberate, impossible to ignore. By the time Andrew noticed it, the sun was still polite and the world hadn't yet realized it was about to become my stage. He touched his collar, frowned, and went straight for the mirror in the hallway. His face gave away everything, guilt, confusion, and the faintest tremor of fear, the perfect cocktail for domestic unrest. Jenna stood in the kitchen doorway, her coffee mug halfway to her lips. What is that? She demanded, her voice slicing the air like a well-honed blade. Andrew turned toward her, startled. What's what? On your shirt. Right there. Lipstick. Red. And before you say it's mine, she reached up and wiped her own mouth, clean and pale. I haven't worn red lipstick in years. You know that. He blinked, hesitated, and sealed his fate with the oldest mistake in the book. He laughed. Nervously. Come on, Jen, that's ridiculous. My mother, She kissed me on the cheek when I dropped by this morning. Oh, your mother, Jenna said slowly, letting the words marinate in sarcasm. So now we're supposed to believe that Bertha, who hasn't used red lipstick since Obama's first term, suddenly decided to pucker up and leave a souvenir? I could imagine it perfectly. In fact, I didn't have to imagine. My little cameras caught everything, the way her mouth tightened, the way he rubbed his neck like a guilty teenager. I swear, it's Mom's lipstick. Maybe she's experimenting again. Experimenting? Jenna hissed. With what, reviving the dead? I've seen her makeup drawer. Beige, beige, and more beige. Oh, my dear daughter-in-law. Beige is for surrender. I have never been beige. I sat in my garden, sipping jasmine tea and watching the footage live on my tablet. Felipe trimmed the roses nearby, occasionally glancing at me with that mixture of concern and amusement only a younger man can afford. Are you sure this doesn't go too far? He asked. Too far is when someone grinds pills into your coffee, sweetheart, I said, tapping the screen. This is choreography. From the speakers came Jenna's next line, venom soft. If I find out you're cheating on me, Andrew, I swear. She didn't finish, but her silence was volcanic. She stormed off screen, and Andrew followed, muttering words the microphones couldn't catch. But the tension was clear enough to taste. The next day, I received the confirmation I'd been waiting for, 2 separate cars in the driveway, one of them parked overnight. Separate bedrooms. The cameras caught her slamming the door. The wiretap caught him sighing, long and miserable, into an empty room. Check. Felipe shook his head when I replayed the scene. You are dangerous, Bernie. Beautiful, but dangerous. I told you, I smiled, I used to be an actress. Every scene has a purpose. Now that the marriage had cracks, I only needed to widen them. I waited a week, patience is the seasoning of revenge, and then launched Act 2. That morning, I borrowed one of Felipe's old phones and set up a new number. The message was short, sweet, and ruinous. Thursday was so good. Let's do it again on the weekend. Same hotel and room. I waited until evening, when my dear son and daughter-in-law would be sitting in the kitchen, pretending to rebuild trust over caffeine. The message went to Jenna's phone at 7:16 p.m. At 7:18, chaos bloomed. The camera in the dining room captured the perfect tableau, Jenna staring at her phone, her face blanching, Andrew glancing up, concern shifting to suspicion as he asked, "What's wrong?" "Nothing," she said too quickly. He held out his hand. "Let me see." "It's private." "Oh, is it?" he snapped. "Private like your yoga retreat last Thursday?" "I was with Melissa." "And this random number says, same hotel and room?" He snatched the phone, read the message aloud, and the blood drained from his face. "So, what, Melissa's your new boyfriend?" She shouted something I can't repeat before storming off. He followed, red-faced, shouting louder. A door slammed upstairs. Then another. I leaned back in my chair, folded my arms, and allowed myself one small, satisfied nod. Felipe handed me a cookie. "Victory snack?" "Merely an intermission," I said. The next few days were quiet, eerily so. I watered the plants, baked apple crumble, and hosted my book club, pretending to be the sort of woman whose greatest thrill was discussing Agatha Christie's red herrings. But behind the curtain, the wiretap whispered updates, muffled arguments, tense silences, the rustle of paper as they each began checking each other's phone bills. Then, as if insulted by their own mediocrity, they reunited, fueled by greed, of course. Love was never their glue, money was. I overheard it clearly. "She still hasn't signed the retirement facility papers," Jenna said. "Don't worry," Andrew replied. "The doctor appointment will help. We'll say it's just 4 memory issues. If she argues, we'll show evidence." "What evidence?" He hesitated. "I'll make some." He meant to move things around in my house, swap furniture, hide my jewelry, maybe misplace my car keys. Gaslighting, the modern child's way of saying thanks for raising me. When Felipe heard it, he slammed his pruning shears onto the table. No. This is sick. It's method, I said. They're following a script. I just have to give them a better one. Bernie, you could call the police. And say what? That my son's trying to make me look crazy? They'd hand him a pamphlet about dementia and tell me to rest. No, Carino. We fight elegance with elegance. That night, I set a trap of my own. I left my back door unlocked, a sin for which I promised myself a new lock tomorrow, and I placed my jewelry box on the dresser, exactly under the camera's gaze. Then I waited. At 1:42 a.m., the motion sensor chimed softly. On the screen, my son, in his hoodie, creeping like a child who's forgotten bedtime manners. He opened drawers, shuffled papers, pocketed the jewelry box, and left through the back. Unbelievable, Felipe whispered. Predictable, I corrected. The next morning, I called Andrew. Sweetheart, did you come by last night? He froze. What? No. Why? Oh, I must be losing it, I said cheerfully. My jewelry box is gone. And you know me, scatterbrained. The silence on the other end of the line was all the confession I needed. A few hours later, when my dog, Pepper, disappeared from the yard, I stopped pretending it was coincidence. I confronted him directly that afternoon, when he brought the memory clinic brochures. You took my dog, I said flatly. He blinked, performed his best innocent face. Mom, you probably left the gate open. You've been distracted lately. I suppose I also stole my own jewelry box? He gave me a pitying smile. You probably misplaced it. That's why we're so worried. My God, the audacity of youth wrapped in fake concern. That evening, while sipping tea Felipe had prepared, I began to feel off. Drowsy. Disoriented. My eyelids heavy, my heart thudding like bad jazz. I remember calling his name, Felipe, and then nothing. When I woke, cold sand clung to my face. Waves whispered nearby. Pepper was licking my cheek, whining in relief. I was on the beach. I staggered up, dizzy but breathing. My car was nowhere in sight. My house, a mile uphill. Someone had drugged me and left me here. By the time I reached home, sunrise had broken like judgment. Felipe found me at the gate, trembling with rage, not fear. He bundled me inside, made me tea, called a doctor, but not one of their doctors. An independent clinic ran my tests. When the results came back, the doctor, a stern woman with silver glasses, stared at the paper, then at me. How did you even drive here? She asked. You have enough sedatives in your system to put down a horse. You could have died, Mrs. Reyes. Bernadette, I corrected softly. And I don't die easily. The drive home was silent except for the ocean of thoughts crashing in my head. My son, my own blood, had tried to erase me, not kill me outright, but make me unfit, unreliable, institutionalized. Well, if that was the play, then I would rewrite the script. That night, I gathered every duct, bottle, and jar in the house and dumped them into the trash. Then I locked every door, changed every password, and drew up a new will. Felipe watched quietly, not interfering, just ready with a steadying hand when the anger made my pen shake. Bernie, he said softly, maybe it's time to forgive. Oh, I will, I said, folding the document neatly. But not before I teach them why forgiveness should be earned. He looked at me, tender, cautious, a man in love with a hurricane, and nodded. The next morning, I dressed in white, poured 2 cups of coffee, and took one to the garden. Pepper followed, tail wagging. Felipe was already there, pruning the jasmine. Let's start living, I told him. Out loud. Every day. In public. Let them choke on our happiness. And that's exactly what we did. Every morning after that, I made sure to be seen, laughing with Felipe at the country club, sharing ice cream at the pier, holding hands by the lake. My friends whispered, my neighbors gawked, but I didn't care. I'd earned my scandal. Let Andrew and Jenna watch their plan crumble. Let them realize the woman they'd tried to erase had returned in full technicolor. The war wasn't over. It was just getting beautiful. Felipe said I was being dramatic when I started calling it the counterattack. But darling, when your own son tries to medicate you into oblivion, the least you can do is give your revenge a decent name. After that night on the beach, I became someone else, not exactly reborn, but definitely rewritten. The kind of woman who didn't just survive betrayal but danced with it, let it spin her once, and then whispered, my turn. I wasn't hiding anymore. If they wanted to make me the town's eccentric matriarch with the scandalous young gardener, then so be it. I'd give them material. Scene 1, The Parade of Happiness. The morning after the toxic tea incident, I showed up at the country club in a wide-brimmed hat and a red silk dress that could have made the Virgin Mary curse in envy. Felipe wore linen and confidence, which looked far better on him than guilt ever did on my son. We walked hand in hand through the lobby, and you should have heard the whispers, God bless small towns. Is that Bernadette? With that gardener? Oh, I thought she was sick. She's lost her mind. Or maybe found it. Felipe squeezed my hand. They are staring. Let them, I said. This is my announcement, I'm not dead, I'm dazzling. We swam, we laughed, we toasted with lemonade. My friends Margot and Claire nearly fainted with delight. They'd been waiting for me to stop mourning Sebastian for years. But it wasn't just about love, it was about optics. If Andrew and Jenna wanted to argue that I was mentally unstable, they'd have to do it while the town was watching me thrive, radiant, and perfectly sane in every newspaper photo and Facebook tag. Scene 2, The Listening Game. While they were busy choking on my happiness, I was still collecting proof. My hidden microphones were loyal little soldiers. One night, the recordings picked up Jenna's voice, angry, trembling. This isn't working, Andrew. She looks fine. She's going horseback riding, for God's sake. The clinic won't believe she's losing her mind if she's galloping like a teenager. Calm down, Andrew replied. We'll find another way. I still have her old medical records. Maybe we can exaggerate something. Oh sure, she snapped. You go ahead and forge that while she's out there with Senior Six-Pack playing happy retirees. I laughed out loud when I heard that one. Felipe looked up from his book. What is funny? Apparently, you've been promoted from gardener to Senior Six-Pack, I said. Congratulations, you're a nickname now. He groaned. Americans and their sarcasm. Don't knock it, love. It's the last weapon they haven't outlawed. I made copies of every recording and hid them in 3 places, my lawyer's office, my safety deposit box, and, because I'm an actress who never underestimates props, inside the ceramic owl on my mantel. No one ever suspects the owl. Scene 3, Turning Their Tricks. 2 weeks later, Andrew called. His voice was syrupy, which always meant poison was near. Mom, how have you been? I've missed you. Oh, you mean since I was drugged and woke up on the beach? He hesitated, then forced a chuckle. Still got that sense of humor. Still got that sense of suspicion, I replied. What do you need? He sighed. Look, I know things have been tense. Jenna and I want to make it right. Come over for dinner. Just us. No talk of doctors, no clinics. Just family. I almost laughed. Did he think I'd fall for that? Still, I accepted. Because even the best hunter needs the prey to think it's safe. Before leaving, I slipped a voice recorder into my handbag, just in case. And Felipe, ever my knight, insisted on driving me there, waiting in the car like a silent guardian. At the table, Jenna served lasagna and too much fake kindness. We thought it would be nice to start fresh, she said. Lovely idea, I answered, cutting into the pasta. But I'll stick to the salad. I've been watching my health lately. You understand. Their faces, oh, how deliciously pale they went. Andrew cleared his throat. Mom, about what happened before. I raised a hand. No apologies, please. Let's not pretend. I know what you tried. I just don't understand why. Jenna dropped her fork. The clang echoed like a confession. Mom, Andrew stammered, you're overreacting. You've always had an active imagination. And you've always underestimated me, I said calmly. I stood, left a 20 on the table for the salad, habit from my acting days, when drama always demanded a clean exit, and walked out. Felipe opened the car door without asking a single question. At home, I poured myself a glass of wine and toasted the mirror. To surviving my own children. And to looking spectacular while doing it. Scene 4, The Sting in the Tail. When you grow up in the entertainment industry, you learn one thing early: audiences believe what they see, not what's true. So I gave my children a performance they couldn't spin. Everywhere I went, I was photographed laughing. I donated to the local shelter. I hosted a fundraiser. I appeared in the town newsletter under the headline, Former Actress Finds New Love and New Purpose. The irony? Jenna was the one who ran the newsletter's design team. I sent her a printed copy with a handwritten note, darling, make sure this one stays in the archives. Felipe tried not to laugh, but he failed spectacularly. Of course, Andrew and Jenna retaliated. They still tried to paint me as unstable. Andrew even rearranged my living room one afternoon while I was out, moved the armchair, switched the paintings. The idea was to make me question my memory. When I came home, I pretended to be confused. Oh dear, I said aloud, knowing the hidden camera was still rolling. Maybe the wind redecorated. Then I winked directly into the lens. 2 days later, my lawyer received an anonymous envelope containing my altered medical forms, clearly forged, with a fake diagnosis of early dementia. He called me immediately. Bernadette, he said, your son and daughter-in-law are out of their depth. Good, I replied. I prefer amateurs. Easier to upstage. Scene 5, The Rope They'll Hang Themselves With. I didn't confront them. Not yet. I simply waited. Because here's something most villains forget, you never need to expose them yourself. You just make sure the audience is watching when they do it for you. So I invited them to brunch. Public, noisy, impossible to stage. Jenna arrived in beige, always beige, poor thing, Andrew in guilt. Felipe joined me, his presence a quiet thunderclap. Mom, Andrew said through clenched teeth, was this really necessary? Yes, I said brightly. Family is everything, isn't it? We sat. The waiter brought coffee. I let mine sit untouched, just for symbolism. Halfway through the meal, Jenna's phone buzzed. She glanced down, frowned, then turned pale. What is it? Andrew asked. She didn't answer. She handed him the phone. Another message, from the same unknown number. Mine. Can't stop thinking about you, beautiful. Same hotel this weekend? Andrew looked up, his jaw locking. What the hell, Jenna? I don't know who that is. Someone's messing with me. The waiter froze mid-step. 2 tables turned their heads. Last time it was Melissa, right? He hissed. Now it's some mystery lover? You think I'm stupid? And right there, in the middle of the cafe, their perfect marriage cracked like old porcelain. I didn't even smile. I simply stirred my tea, serene as a saint in a scandal. Scene 6, The Sweetest Satisfaction. When they finally realized the entire town had witnessed their meltdown, they left in opposite directions, no goodbye, no explanation. Felipe drove me home, one hand on the wheel, the other resting gently over mine. Was that necessary? He asked quietly. Yes, I said. They plotted to destroy my sanity. The least I can do is return the favor, artistically. He shook his head, but he was smiling. You are terrifying. I'm efficient. Scene 7, the next move. Now, their marriage in ruins, their scheme unraveling, I began to plan my finale. It wasn't enough to expose them. They needed to feel it, to face the truth that their greed had cost them everything. That night, I sat at my desk with Pepper curled at my feet and wrote a new will, one that left my children exactly nothing. Half of my estate would go to Laurel, my darling granddaughter, but only when she turned 21. The rest would fund art scholarships for girls from our town who couldn't afford to dream. When I finished, I leaned back, feeling lighter than I had in years. Felipe appeared at the door, holding 2 glasses of wine. To what do we toast tonight? To beginnings, I said. And to endings that are deserved. Outside, the wind rustled through the garden. My roses nodded in agreement. The war wasn't over, but the battlefield had shifted. And the next act, my wedding, my final flourish, would be the one they never saw coming. If you'd told me a year ago that I'd be planning a wedding at 59, I'd have laughed so hard my hip would have begged for mercy. But life, like my acting career, thrives on surprises. The morning I decided to marry Felipe, I woke up to the smell of coffee and lilacs. He'd been in the garden since dawn, humming that Argentine tune he always hums when he's happy or worried, sometimes both. I watched him through the window, sunlight spilling over his shoulders, and thought, yes. I've had my revenge. Now it's time to have my life. But I wasn't just marrying him out of love. Oh no, darling. My wedding would be an event, a statement, and the most elegant act of defiance this family had ever seen. Scene 1, the announcement. I invited exactly 3 people, Margot, my lawyer, and my granddaughter, Laurel. Everyone else found out through gossip, which, in our town, travels faster than broadband. The invitation was simple. Bernadette Reyes and Felipe Martinez. Joyfully invite you to mind your own business. Private ceremony in the garden. Attendance strictly by invitation only. Margot laughed until she cried. You're going to give your son a coronary, you know that? I hope it's hereditary, I said. I want him to feel what betrayal tastes like, surprise with a hint of irony. By sunset, my phone exploded. Andrew called 7 times. Jenna texted twice. Please tell me this is a joke, one message said. We should be there. I didn't reply. Instead, I posted a picture on Facebook, me and Felipe in our backyard, him in a white shirt, me barefoot with a glass of champagne, captioned simply. Sometimes love grows right where you plant it. The comments ranged from so happy for you to isn't he her gardener? And one anonymous disgusting that I'm fairly sure came from Jenna's mother. Let them choke on it. Scene 2, the preparation. Planning the wedding became my favorite kind of theater. The backyard, once a modest sprawl of roses and thyme, transformed into something between a film set and a dream. Strings of fairy lights looped across the pergola. Felipe built an arch of wood and ivy, every knot tied with his calloused hands. You don't need to do all this, I told him one afternoon as he knelt among the peonies. He looked up, sweat glistening on his temple, and smiled. I want to. You make me feel 20 again. Good, I said, handing him a glass of lemonade. Because I plan on keeping you busy until you're 80. Margot stopped by every day with her clipboard and gin flask, alternating between gossip and floral arrangements. You really aren't inviting them? She asked again, meaning Andrew and Jenna. No, I said, trimming a rose. They wanted to put me in a nursing home. The only home they'll see now is mine, and only from the sidewalk. What about Laurel? Oh, she's the exception. My little artist deserves a front row seat to what a woman does when she refuses to disappear. Scene 3, the unwanted guests. On the morning of the ceremony, the sky looked like heaven had decided to cooperate. The air was soft, the roses open, the world mercifully silent. Felipe wore a cream suit that made him look like something out of an old movie, and I wore my mother's lace gown, altered to fit a woman who no longer believed in pretending to be small. Then came the knock. I opened the door and found Andrew and Jenna standing there, holding a bottle of champagne like it was a peace offering instead of a bribe. "Mom," Andrew began, "we just wanted to." "No," I interrupted. "You wanted to be seen. There's a difference." "Please," Jenna said, her voice trembling in that rehearsed way only liars manage. "We made mistakes, but—" "You drugged me," I said simply. "You forged papers. You stole my jewelry, my dog, my dignity, and you nearly succeeded. But I got it back. All of it." Andrew's mouth opened, closed, then opened again, searching for the right script. "We were scared. You were acting strange, Anne." "I was acting, all right," I said, smiling. "Just not in the role you assigned me." Felipe appeared behind me, his hand warm on my shoulder. "Everything okay, Bernie?" "Perfect," I said, then turned back to my son. "You can leave the champagne. You'll need it later." "Later?" Jenna frowned. "For when you realize I've cut you both out of the will." Andrew's face drained of color. "You wouldn't." "Watch me," I said. They left, the sound of their tires spitting gravel like applause. Scene 4, the ceremony. When I stepped under the arch, the music playing was a tango, Felipe's choice. "Because you taught me to dance through storms," he'd said. Laurel stood beside me, holding the bouquet she'd designed herself, wildflowers in every shade of defiance. "You look beautiful, Grandma," she whispered. "So do you, sweetheart," I said, squeezing her hand. "You're the only one who never lied to me." The officiant, a dear friend from my acting days, smiled as she read the vows. I'd written my own, naturally. Bernadette," I said, my voice steady, "take you, Felipe, not because I need saving, but because I've already saved myself. I take you as a partner, not a rescuer, and I promise to keep loving you even when you're late for dinner or early to bed." He grinned, eyes glistening. Felipe, take you, Bernie, because you are chaos and calm, and you remind me that gardens need storms to grow." When the officiant said, "You may kiss the bride," I kissed him like it was a declaration of independence. Scene 5, the toast. At the small table afterward, Laurel raised her glass of sparkling cider. "To Grandma and Felipe," she said, "for showing everyone that love doesn't have an expiration date." Margot clinked glasses with a laugh. "And for reminding certain uninvited relatives that karma comes in lace." I laughed so hard I nearly spilled my champagne. Later, when everyone had gone, Felipe and I sat beneath the fairy lights. "Do you regret not inviting your family?" he asked. I looked up at the stars. "No. But I do pity them. They'll spend their whole lives chasing what they already had and threw away." Scene 6, the letter. The next morning, I mailed a letter, no drama, no spite, just truth. "Dear Andrew and Jenna. You wanted control. You wanted my house, my money, my silence. You forgot who raised you, an actress who knows how to play both hero and villain. I forgive you, but forgiveness isn't inheritance. You will receive none of my estate. Laurel will get half when she turns 21, if she follows her dreams, not yours. The rest will go to scholarships for girls who want to create, not destroy. I wish you both peace. You'll need it. Love. Mom." I sealed the envelope with wax, like a queen sending her decree. Scene 7, the quiet after the storm. Life after the wedding felt like spring. Felipe and I rode horses through the meadow, danced at twilight, and sometimes just sat by the fire with Pepper asleep between us. The town kept gossiping, of course. Some said I'd lost my mind, others said I'd found my courage. I didn't care. Both were true. Every once in a while, I'd see Andrew's car drive past my gate, slow, then speed up again. He never stopped. Maybe one day he will. Maybe he won't. But that's not my story anymore. Because this quiet, this laughter, this second life, is what I fought for. And darling, I've never looked better losing my mind. If peace had a flavor, it would be lemon meringue. I baked one the morning after I mailed that letter, humming while Felipe pruned the wisteria and the radio played some old tango from Buenos Aires. I hadn't felt this light in decades. Not since my acting days when applause still filled the spaces that loneliness used to haunt. But peace, as I've learned, never lasts long in my family. It's like leaving pie on the windowsill, you just know some fool's going to come along and stick a fork in it. Scene 1, The Visit. 2 weeks after the wedding, my intercom buzzed. I was painting the back fence, wearing Felipe's old shirt and feeling delightfully domestic. Mrs. Reyes? The voice cracked like someone rehearsing sincerity. It's Officer Daniels. Could we have a word? Police. Oh, how exciting. I wiped my hands on a rag and opened the gate. There stood a young officer, hat in hand, trying to look authoritative while avoiding eye contact with my paint-splattered legs. Ma'am, he said, we received a call from your son. He said he's concerned about your well-being. I almost laughed. Concerned? About me? Did he mention he tried to poison me last month? The officer blinked. No ma'am. He said you've been acting erratically. Spending recklessly. Possibly, under undue influence. He meant Felipe, of course. Oh, bless his heart, I said. Would you like some lemonade while you verify I'm still in possession of my sanity? 5 minutes later, the poor boy sat at my kitchen table, sipping lemonade while Felipe discussed tomato fertilizer. Pepper lay at my feet, chewing a squeaky toy like it was punctuation. Officer, I said sweetly, would a madwoman bake 3 pies before noon? Would she run a charity for orphaned cats? Would she? I gestured toward the framed certificate from the local paper, Citizen of the Month, which I may or may not have nominated myself for, receive civic recognition for her contributions to community culture? He blushed, stammered something about misunderstanding, and left so quickly he nearly tripped on the walkway. When the gate clicked shut, Felipe chuckled. You enjoy this too much, Bernie. Enjoy? I said, brushing a streak of blue paint off my hand. Darling, this is foreplay for justice. Scene 2, The Retaliation. The next move came from Jenna, of course it did. She had the subtlety of a marching band. A week later, I discovered my credit card had been frozen. My bank called, apologetic. Your son reported possible fraud, Mrs. Reyes. He said you might be confused. I leaned back in my chair, smiled like a woman at the top of a roller coaster, and said, oh, thank you, dear. Could you mark that false report and connect me to your fraud division? I have a little recording you might like to hear. By evening, the issue was resolved, the accounts restored, and my son's access permanently revoked. But I didn't stop there. I emailed him a single line that night. If you want to keep playing with fire, make sure you know who taught you to light the match. No signature. None needed. Scene 3, The Invitation. The town's annual charity gala was approaching, the one my son's firm sponsored every year, all blazers and hypocrisy. I wasn't invited, of course. That's what made it fun. Margot helped me plan the infiltration. You'll need an entrance, she said. I was born for entrances, I told her. So, the night of the gala, Felipe and I arrived unannounced, looking like sin and success. He in his black suit, me in emerald silk that clung like revenge. The chatter stopped when we walked in. Andrew was mid-speech, microphone in hand, talking about family values and integrity. When he saw me, he stuttered. Oh, don't stop on my account, I called out, clapping lightly. You were just getting to the comedy part. Laughter rippled through the crowd. Not all of it kind, but all of it delicious. I walked right up to the stage. It's wonderful to see you giving back to the community, darling. Though if memory serves, last month you were trying to take back my community, one fraudulent signature at a time. He froze. The audience shifted uncomfortably. Jenna tried to smile, but her mascara cracked before her facade did. I patted his arm. You should be proud. You've achieved something no one in this family ever has, complete public embarrassment in under 10 seconds. Then I turned, waved at the cameras, and walked out on my son's career like it was a red carpet. Outside, Felipe exhaled. You didn't have to humiliate him like that. Yes, I did, I said, slipping my arm through his. Some lessons are only learned with witnesses. Scene 4, the media spin. By morning, local gossip sites had run the headline. Former TV star interrupts son's charity speech, family feud goes public. I framed it. Hung it in my hallway, right above the thermostat. Every time I adjust the temperature, I get to glance at my masterpiece. Predictably, Jenna went into damage control. She told reporters I was mentally fragile and being manipulated by a younger man. So I scheduled an interview. Mrs. Reyes, the reporter asked, your daughter-in-law says you've become irrational. I smiled into the camera. Oh, I assure you, I'm the most rational woman you'll ever meet. The difference is, I stopped being obedient. That tends to alarm people who benefit from your silence. It aired that evening. Jenna deleted her social media by morning. Scene 5, the unexpected ally. Then came something I didn't expect. Laurel showed up after school, her backpack heavy with sketchbooks and courage. Grandma, she said, Mom and Dad are fighting all the time. They blame you, but I don't. I know what they did. My throat tightened. Sweetheart, I never wanted you caught in the middle. She shook her head. I'm not. I just wanted to tell you. I'm applying to the Art Academy. The one in New York. I felt my heart swell. Oh, my darling girl, that's what you're meant for. But Mom says we can't afford it. You can, I said, reaching into my desk and pulling out the folder I'd prepared weeks earlier. This is your scholarship. My gift to you. You'll be able to use it once you turn 21, but until then, you have this. Inside was a debit card tied to a trust fund, with strict instructions, tuition, art supplies, travel. Nothing else. Her eyes filled with tears. Grandma, why would you do all this for me? Because you're the only one who still believes in beauty, I said. The others believe in money. She hugged me so tight my bones remembered what love feels like. Scene 6, the breaking point. The next day, Andrew stormed into my house without knocking. Felipe was pruning roses again, he stood protectively between us before I even spoke. You had no right to humiliate me. Andrew shouted. You've ruined my career. No, darling, I said, calm as a prayer. You ruined it yourself. I just adjusted the lighting so everyone could see. You're cutting me out of your will over a misunderstanding? You drugged me, I reminded him. His face flushed. You can't prove that. Oh, but I can. I gestured toward the sideboard, where a folder waited like judgment. Recordings. Lab results. Witness statements. I've got enough evidence to make you famous in ways you'll regret. For a moment, I saw the boy he used to be, the one who used to make me Mother's Day cards out of construction paper. Then I saw the man he'd become, trembling with entitlement. He left without another word. Felipe came over and kissed my temple. That must hurt. It does, I said softly. But I'm old enough to know that pain and power are sometimes the same thing. Scene 7, the calm before the curtain. After that confrontation, the house grew peaceful again. Felipe and I spent our evenings by the fire, pepper curled between us, Laurel's drawings pinned along the mantel. Some nights, I caught myself wondering if I'd gone too far. Revenge is a sweet poison, it warms the throat before it burns the heart. But then I'd remember the taste of that drugged tea and the sound of my son saying, "Do it yourself." And I'd know, no, I hadn't gone too far. I'd gone exactly far enough. That night, I stood on my porch, watching the stars scatter across the sky. The war was nearly over. I'd taken back my life, my dignity, and my peace. But I had one final act left, a quiet, graceful finale that would make sure my son and daughter-in-law understood the true cost of betrayal. Because sometimes, the most powerful revenge isn't destruction. It's living beautifully in the ruins they built for you. There comes a point in every good story when the villain realizes the heroine isn't bluffing. That moment had finally arrived. By now, I'd turned from eccentric mother into something of a local legend. The newspapers had cooled off, the town had moved on to newer scandals, and I was left in peace, exactly where I wanted to be. But I knew Andrew and Jenna weren't done. Greedy people never retire, they just rebrand. And sure enough, their next move slithered into my mailbox one Tuesday morning in the form of a pale blue envelope. Inside was an invitation to the Reyes family reconciliation dinner. Margot nearly spit out her tea when I showed her. Good Lord, she laughed, they're trying to stage an apology dinner? Oh no, darling, I said, folding the card neatly. They're trying to stage a setup. Are you going? Of course. Every actress knows, you never turn down a finale. Scene 1, the dinner. They hosted it at their house, the same one where I'd planted cameras that Thanksgiving, though the devices had long since been retrieved. Still, I knew every shadow of that place. Every creak in the floorboards. Felipe wanted to come with me, but I told him no. This one I have to finish alone, I said. He frowned. They don't deserve your time. I'm not giving them my time, I said, fastening my pearl earrings. I'm giving them closure. Theirs, not mine. When I arrived, they greeted me at the door like actors auditioning for sainthood. Jenna wore white, how symbolic, and Andrew's tie was just slightly too tight, the knot betraying nerves. Mom, he said, all soft-voiced and hollow, thank you for coming. I'm always punctual, I said, brushing past him. Even to my own betrayals. The table was set like a magazine spread, candles, wine, an obscene number of forks. Laurel wasn't there. That told me everything I needed to know, this dinner wasn't for family. It was for control. We ate in polite silence for a while. Jenna asked about my little garden project. Andrew asked about Felipe with feigned curiosity. I answered every question with a smile sharp enough to slice ham. Finally, Jenna leaned forward, eyes glinting. You know, Bernadette, you've been through so much. Don't you think it's time to let the past go? Maybe move to a community where people can help you. Finish that sentence, I said softly, and you'll regret it. She swallowed hard, glanced at Andrew. He cleared his throat. Mom, you've changed. You seem paranoid. I took a slow sip of wine. No, darling. I seem aware. There's a difference. Scene 2, the trap. Halfway through dessert, some underbaked atrocity Jenna called tiramisu, the conversation turned. Andrew shifted uneasily. Mom, we just want to make sure you're taken care of. How kind, I said. Though I must confess, I'm the one taking care of things now. In fact, my lawyer's been busy. Would you like to know what he's been working on? They froze. What do you mean? Oh, just a small matter of paperwork. You see, after that little misunderstanding with the sedatives and the missing jewelry, I thought it best to leave a statement with the district attorney's office, sealed, of course. It includes everything. Andrew's fork slipped, clattering against his plate. You wouldn't. I did, I said. And I also sent copies to the bank, my lawyer, and my dear friend Margot, who's under strict instructions to go full Broadway if anything happens to me. Jenna's face drained of color. You're bluffing. Oh, sweetheart, I said, leaning forward. If you're going to accuse an actress of bluffing, at least pick one who didn't spend 20 years perfecting the art. Silence. Thick, guilty silence. I let it linger. Then I smiled, stood, and wiped my napkin delicately. Dinner was lovely. I'll let myself out. Scene 3, the revelation. Back home, Felipe waited on the porch, arms crossed, concern creasing his brow. Did they try something? He asked. No, I said. But they realized I might. He exhaled. So it's finished? Almost. The next day, I paid a visit to my lawyer, Mr. Hoffman, a man with more spine than patience. We signed the final draft of my estate plan. He read it twice, then looked at me over his glasses. "You're sure about this, Bernadette? There's no going back." "Quite sure," I said. "If my son and daughter-in-law think money is the only measure of love, let them starve for it." The will was simple. Half the estate to Laurel, accessible only when she turned 21 and enrolled in an art program. The remainder to the Bernadette Reyes Foundation for Creative Girls, to provide scholarships for young women with imagination and grit. A lifetime stipend for Felipe, because love deserves security, not charity. And not a single cent to Andrew or Jenna. "Send them each a copy," I told Hoffman. "Special delivery. No ribbons." He smiled thinly. "You really do like theatrics, don't you?" "I'm an actress," I said. "We don't do subtle. We do closure." Scene 4, The Fallout. By Friday, my phone was vibrating off the counter. Calls, texts, voicemails. Andrew begging for a meeting. Jenna threatening legal action. I ignored them all. Then came Laurel's message, "Dad's furious. He says you've ruined everything. But I'm proud of you." I sent her back a heart and a single line, "Darling, I didn't ruin anything. I simply stopped pretending broken things still worked." That weekend, the doorbell rang again. This time it was Andrew, alone, exhausted, eyes red. "Mom," he said quietly, "I didn't mean for it to go this far." "Oh, but you did," I said gently. "You meant for it to go all the way. You just didn't expect me to fight back." He ran a hand through his hair, tears threatening. "You've turned everyone against me." "No, Andrew," I said. "You did that yourself. I just let the light in so people could see the truth." He looked around, maybe expecting Felipe to appear and rescue me, or him. When neither happened, he whispered, "I don't know who you are anymore." "You never did," I said. And then I closed the door. Slowly. Quietly. Scene 5, The Foundation. The weeks that followed were pure bliss. My lawyer filed the papers. The foundation became official. Local girls began sending sketches, letters, applications. My living room turned into a gallery of hope. Laurel helped organize everything. "You're changing lives, Grandma," she said. "So are you," I replied. "You're proof that one honest heart can outshine a dozen deceitful ones." Felipe, meanwhile, was planning something of his own. One morning, he led me to the garden where a new sculpture stood, a delicate metal fox, sleek and proud, perched on a stone base engraved with 3 words, "She outsmarted them." I burst out laughing. "Felipe, it's perfect." "You are the fox," he said. "Beautiful. Clever. Dangerous when cornered." "I prefer gracefully vengeful," I corrected. He smiled, kissed me, and the world felt soft again. Scene 6, The Epilogue in Progress. Every now and then, I still see my son's car passing the house. He slows down, looks in, then drives away. Maybe he's ashamed. Maybe he's still angry. Maybe both. But I don't wish him harm anymore. I just wish him truth, and the burden of memory. Because he'll remember every step of the war he started and the peace I claimed. He'll remember that his mother didn't fade away, she flourished. And maybe, when he's old and gray, he'll tell his daughter, "Your grandmother was impossible." To which Laurel will say, "Yes. And thank God for it." Scene 7, The Last Laugh. On the anniversary of my wedding, I hosted a dinner in the garden. Felipe grilled, Margot brought wine, Laurel displayed her newest sketches. The fairy lights flickered like applause from the universe. When the night wound down, Margot raised her glass. "To Bernadette," she said. "Who proved that revenge can be art, forgiveness optional." I laughed. "To all of us," I said. "The women who refused to apologize for surviving. And as the crickets sang and Felipe's hand found mine, I realized something beautiful. I hadn't just won the war. I'd rewritten the battlefield. The past was a lesson. The betrayal, a script. And I, Bernadette Reyes, the woman they once called Mom, had taken my final bow. But little did I know, one last surprise still waited for me. Because some wars end with forgiveness. And some end when the fox teaches her cubs how to fight. The surprise came in the form of a knock on the gate, gentle, hesitant, like someone unsure whether forgiveness lived here. I was pruning lavender, wearing Felipe's oversized hat and humming Edith Piaf, when I saw Laurel standing there, clutching a sketchpad to her chest. Her eyes were wide, a little nervous, but her smile was steady. "Grandma," she said, "Dad wants to talk to you." Ah. So the prodigal son had finally decided to put words to his shame. I'd been expecting this, though not quite so soon. "Does he now?" I said, trimming one last sprig of lavender and handing it to her. "Tell him he's welcome to come by. But I don't promise hospitality, only honesty." She laughed. "That's what I told him." Scene 1, The Return. That evening, the gate creaked again. Felipe was inside preparing dinner, the scent of roasted peppers drifted through the air. When I saw Andrew standing there, he looked smaller somehow, not younger, just deflated. He wasn't wearing the armor of pride anymore. His suit was gone, his tie forgotten. He was just my son, gray at the temples, exhausted, finally human. "May I come in?" he asked. I gestured toward the porch. "Depends. Are you here as my son or as my enemy?" "As your son," he said softly. "Then wipe your feet," I replied, "and try not to lie for the next 10 minutes. He actually smiled. A flicker, but it was there. We sat on the porch swing, the same one where I'd once held him as a toddler, his tiny fingers sticky with grape jelly. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Finally, he said, "I saw your interview. The one about the foundation. You looked happy." "I am," I said. "Turns out, peace fits me better than guilt." He nodded. I wanted to say I'm sorry. I looked at him, really looked. "You don't get points for regret, Andrew. Not when you nearly killed me." He swallowed hard. "I know. Jenna. Don't you dare blame her. You drank the same poison even if she poured the cup." He closed his eyes, and when he opened them, I saw something I hadn't seen in years, sincerity. Fragile, flickering, but real. "I lost my way," he said. "When Dad died, I thought I had to control everything, your money, your life, your happiness. I couldn't stand the idea that you might move on without him. Or without us." I sighed. That's the trouble with control. It always looks like love when you're the one holding the leash. He looked down at his hands. "I don't expect forgiveness." "Good," I said. "Because I don't give it cheaply. But I might give you a second chance." "On probation." His head snapped up. "Really? Don't look so surprised. I'm vindictive, not heartless." Scene 2, The Reckoning. Over dinner, Felipe joined us. To his credit, Andrew apologized to him too, awkwardly, but sincerely. Felipe shook his hand, then poured him a glass of wine. "You are lucky," Felipe said, his accent soft but his words sharp. "She could have destroyed you." "I know," Andrew said quietly. "And she would have been right too." I smiled. "Oh, don't flatter me. I'm too tired for full destruction these days. I prefer legacy." He looked at me, puzzled. I gestured toward the folder on the counter, the one marked Reyes Foundation. "That's my legacy now. Girls who'll never have to beg permission to dream. That, and your daughter, who's going to New York next fall." His eyes widened. "Laurel got in?" "She did," I said. "She earned it. And she'll never owe you a dime for it." He blinked back tears, and for the first time since this war began, I saw gratitude instead of greed. You really cut us off, he said softly. Yes, I replied. But sometimes, cutting off a limb saves the body. Scene 3, The Ghosts We Keep. A few days later, I drove to the ocean alone. It was the first time I'd returned since the night I woke up drugged and half-drowned. I parked near the dunes, took off my shoes, and walked along the surf, letting the cold water kiss my ankles. I carried no anger with me, just memory. The sea had nearly claimed me once. Now, it bowed at my feet. I scattered a handful of rose petals into the tide. For every woman who was underestimated, I whispered. And for every one who decided to rise instead. When I turned back, Felipe was there. He hadn't followed me, he'd simply found me, like he always did. I knew you'd come here, he said. I had to, I replied. I had to thank the ocean for returning me. And to tell it I'm not finished yet. He smiled. Then let's not waste time being ghosts. We walked back hand in hand, leaving 2 sets of footprints behind us, proof that the living still had work to do. Scene 4, The Art Show. 3 months later, Laurel's first exhibition opened in a small New York gallery. The theme was inheritance. Her centerpiece stopped me cold, a portrait of me sitting in the garden, a fox curled at my feet. The caption read, "For my grandmother Bernadette, who taught me that survival is an art form." People whispered as I passed, some recognizing me from my acting days, others from the scandal that had briefly made me infamous. I didn't care. Laurel stood beside me, radiant and proud. "You like it?" "I love it," I said. "Though you made me look far too noble." "I was much pettier." She grinned. "That's the best part." Scene 5, The Letter. A week later, I received a letter in the mail. No return address, just familiar handwriting. Mom. I don't deserve another chance, but thank you for giving it to me anyway. Laurel told me you're happy. I'm glad. You were right, money isn't love, control isn't care. I'm starting therapy. I sold the house. Jenna and we're done. Maybe that's for the best. I don't expect forgiveness, but I'll keep earning it, one day at a time. Love. Andrew. I folded the letter, pressed it to my lips, and whispered, finally. Sometimes, peace doesn't arrive in fireworks. Sometimes it sneaks in quietly, wearing regret's old clothes. Scene 6, The Final Scene. The garden was in full bloom that spring. The jasmine climbed higher than ever, and the fox sculpture gleamed in the afternoon light. Felipe came up behind me, slipping his arms around my waist. You look thoughtful, he said. I was just wondering, I murmured, what they'll say about me when I'm gone. He laughed softly. That you were beautiful. Fierce. Impossible. And? He kissed the back of my neck. That you never surrendered your dignity. I smiled. Then I'd done my job. Scene 7, Curtain Call. On my 61st birthday, we hosted a small gathering, just friends, Laurel on video call from New York, and Felipe at my side. Margot gave a toast that made everyone laugh and cry in equal measure. To Bernadette, she said, raising her glass. Who proved that elegance is the sharpest weapon and love is the sweetest revenge. Everyone clapped, but I just sat there, smiling, remembering the woman I'd been before all this, the naive mother who thought her children's love was unconditional, the grieving widow who almost stopped living. She was gone now, replaced by someone better. Stronger. Free. When the night ended, I stepped outside, the stars shimmering above the garden I'd rebuilt with my own hands. The roses swayed in the breeze, the fairy lights glowed, and for the first time in years, the silence felt like peace instead of punishment. I whispered to the wind, it's over. Pepper barked once, as if to confirm it. And in that moment, I understood, revenge had only been the rehearsal. Living well was the performance. Epilogue. They still call me the Fox of Fairview around town. I pretend to hate it, but secretly, I adore it. Because foxes don't just survive. They adapt. they outthink. They rebuild their dens where others tried to burn them down. And if you ever pass by my house on a summer evening, you might see an old woman in a white hat, laughing with her young husband under the wisteria. That'll be me, Bernadette Reyes. Once betrayed. Now victorious. Still living elegantly ever after.